Okay. What can we learn about the context of Jesus' life from his contemporary historical accounts? Although we often think about Jesus' life as occurring outside of time and historical context, we really can understand the full meaning and importance of Christ's events and ministry when we understand the historical context in which they happened. Historical accounts of the lives of the people who lived in Scripture's depictions of Jesus' life provides us with essential information to understanding faith from Herod, the Magi, and Pontius Pilate. Point 1. History teaches us that King Herod was a controversial figure in the Jewish world, whose violence was well known for his reaction to the Magi and his killing of the infant boys of Bethlehem. Besides his interactions with the Magi and killing all of the killing of the young boys near Bethlehem, we don't get told very much about King Herod the Great. The only major mention of him in Scripture comes in Acts when we get to hear about his gruesome death. And, quote, immediately an angel from the Lord struck him down because he did not give God the glory, and he was eaten by worms and breathed his last. Quote from Acts of the Apostles 12:19 through 24. So what can we learn about Herod from other sources? He was a very unlikely king, and his route to the throne was very unusual. By ancestry, he was an Edomite and not strictly a Jew. He also didn't come from a noble background. Herod's father, Antipater, came from Edom, where his family was affluent but not noblemen. They eventually rose to the level of governorship and converted to Judaism. As Jews, they became involved in the politics of Judea. During Julius Caesar's war with Pompey, Herod's father rescued Caesar in Alexandria. During the struggle with the Egyptians, as a reward, he was made chief minister of Judea and given right to collect taxes. Antipater eventually made Herod the governor of Galilee. After the assassination of Julius Caesar, Antipater sided against Mark Antony. The pro-Roman politics of Antipater led to the unpopularity among non-Hellenized Jews. After Pompey was defeated at the Battle of Pharsalus, some troops allied with the Parthians. They invaded Judea in 40 BC, worried by the threat of Mark Antony, which was willing to support the efforts at being named king of the Jews. Herod then went to fight the sorry, Franklin. He went to go fight for Roman control of the country. Although being named king of the Jews, by his position in Judaism was shaky. He was worried that his brother-in-law might seize to get revenge on him, and because of this, he ended up making him high priest. It was so what ended up happening is that it was a hot day, so they went out to a pool of water. Eventually, they started dunking and playing around, and Aristobulus, his brother-in-law, who he was a little shaky about, was pretending as if he was having fun, and they started dunking him under the water and ended up killing him. In the first temple built by King Solomon, and another thing that happened with King Herod is that when the first temple that was built by King Solomon was destroyed when the Babylonians captured Jerusalem in 1587 BC, they also built for a larger one. Much of that was destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD. And in Mark 13:1 it says, in Mark 13:1 through 2, it says, one of Jesus' followers pointed out how beautiful the buildings were, and Jesus said, not one stone will be left on another. Point 2. The visit of the Magi was for from portrayed in the nativity scenes. The Magi were Parthian priests or astrologers from the Zoran region and were considered an ominous group throughout the ancient world. We know the biblical accounts of the Magi and their gifts, but who were they, and what was their visit to and why was their visit to Jesus so important? The Magi were Zoroastrian priests and important to the people in Persian history. Eventually, the word Magi evolved to the word magic or magician. What was the prophecy that led the Magi to Jerusalem? They were looking for signs of the Sazerath. The Sazerath was the Avestian language expression which means one who brings benefit. It is referring to the Sazerath who brings the final renovation to the world where evil is finally destroyed. Here's a quote from the Avesta Zoroastrian Holy Book. It says, quote, "He will be the virtuous Sazerath by name, and he will renovate the world," end quote, from the Avestua Farvian Yashit 13:129. So they were actually, when they were looking for the star, they were actually looking for the Sazerath in the stars, not just Jesus' star. The Magi visited other people, and their visit to Jesus really was not that unique or special. Interestingly, the gifts presented to Jesus were actually not unusual offerings to a god. Point 3. Pontius Pilate's weak position in Rome and his bad reputation with the population of Judea offers important insights into the trials of Jesus. We have little information on Pilate's background or childhood. Although his first name never has been discovered, his two surviving names indicated that he started his military career as a javelin thrower or his family were freed slaves. His family name, Pontius, means that he was part of the Ponti family, a well-known family who rose to prominence in the late Republic and early Empire. His family was of the plebeian origin, but became ennobled as Esquerians. Despite his power, Pontius Pilate was an outsider in Roman politics. We know Pilate was fairly wealthy and had a powerful patron who secured his position in Judea. We also know that he was married and served in Germany prior to being appointed to his command in Judea. Pilate was closely aligned to the Sadducees. We know this because he used some of the temple treasury to create an aqueduct in Judea. This could not have happened unless the Sadducees supported him and were involved in this. Scripture also indicates that he worked closely with Jewish authorities in Jesus' execution, aka partly the Sadducees. Even when Pilate targeted to set Jesus free from Jewish leaders, they told him, quote, If you let this man go, you are no friend of Caesar." Quote from John 19:22. Which might have been, we think that this friend of Caesar might have been a title, friend of Caesar. We might think that this had been a title that he was gifted. He got off to a rough start with the Jewish population because of a few things that he messed up. Number one, he brought Roman standards into Jerusalem. He brought Roman standards into Jerusalem and drew weapons to protesters. What happened was when he made an image of Caesar, and the Jews ended up surrounding Pilate's house because they got mad at that for 5 days until he brought them to an arena when he was about to kill them or threatened to kill them. The Jews showed no sign of being scared of death, so he ended up just changing the standard altogether. Number two, he brought Roman shields into Caesar's palace. The local population complained to Tiberius being his boss, and leading him to order Pilate, which ended up leading Tiberius to order Pilate to remove the shields to restore peace to Judea. And number three, Pilate sought to build an aqueduct to supply Jerusalem with water using money from the treasury. This triggered riots. Pilate used undercover soldiers to assault the rioters. So those three things made his position a little bit shaky with the Jews, because they did not like how he was doing all of these different Roman things, like the three things I just mentioned. So the trial of Jesus, how does all this go into the trial of Jesus? All of the sources agree that Jesus was tried for sedation. Pilate likely tried Jesus according to the cogno extra ordinum, a form of trial for capital punishment used in Roman provinces against non-Roman citizens, for general flexibility in the case. Later, Pilate's life, it is believed that he either died by suicide or serving in Switzerland. So although we often think about the events of Jesus' life as occurring outside of time and historical context, however, we can really only understand the full meaning and importance of Christ's events and ministry when we understand the historical context in which they happened. Historical accounts of the lives of the people who appeared in Scripture's depictions of Jesus' life provides us with essential information in understanding our faith from Herod, the Magi, and Pontius Pilate. Thank you.